Peacemaker Season 2 is just flat out awesome. Now, I can say that because I've seen the first 5 episodes. While I still have not seen the last 3, because DC Studios only provided the first 5. That first 5 was such a great sample serving that I cannot wait for the last 3, because this is going to be my review and reaction to the first 5 episodes in non-spoilers, because there are things in here that you're not going to want to know. You're going to want to be surprised by, because there were things in here that I was surprised by, and definitely things that make me more interested towards the DCU canon, and this kind of like starts to make me understand a little bit more about that overall. But I cannot wait to get your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. So let's get this mask off and let's get into the review. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new TV review. Today we're discussing Peacemaker Season 2, Episodes 1 through 5. This is going to be my non-spoiler reaction review, as I stated in my intro. And as I stated in that intro too, this is just awesome. It's another awesome season of Peacemaker and another awesome chapter in the DC universe. And this, for me, has been something I've been pretty interested in for multiple different reasons. One, James Gunn's now the studio head, one of the main studio heads at DC Studios with Peter Safran, who... Also, for me, James Gunn just kicked it right off the bat with Superman, which I was a massive fan of, really liked it the more and more I've thought about the film, the more and more I've liked it. And Creature Commandos, I thought, was also a great, fun thing in the DC universe. But Peacemaker was the interesting one because they're taking so much from the original DCEU. You're taking a first season that was technically set in the DCEU, but with a little bit of finagling, you could easily make it standalone and separate-ish. But Peacemaker is also connected to not just the Suicide Squad, but also the original Suicide Squad that came out in 2016. And with all that said, there is, in a way, some baggage to that. And I can see how in some way you can say, just forget the canon, this is what's canon, this is what's not. But I have to say, I was very interested to see how Peacemaker Season 2 was going to be able to intertwine itself into the DCU, and I think it does it in such spades. First, I will say, if you do not watch the recaps for the shows, I highly recommend watching the recaps for Season 2 of Peacemaker. That will definitively establish what is canon and what they're kind of switching around here and there that may have happened in Season 1. As well as the season plays out within only the first 5 episodes, it definitely lets you know what is canon from the previous DCEU for the most part. And it's kind of what you expected it to be from just the trailers alone. And I'm okay with that. Like, what we got established here, I'm happy. And that's about as much as I can say without getting into spoilers. We'll talk a little bit more hinting at certain things, but without further ado, if you enjoy movie reviews, TV reviews, if you're a geek like me, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. When it comes down to TV, I'm a little bit more rambled, kind of all over the place, because I like to film these right after I finish binging something, because it gives that more reactionary take than me sitting back and actually like sitting on everything. Some people might disagree with that kind of take, but for me, that's the way that I like to watch TV and talk about it, is I feel like it's in a reactionary manner. So definitely leave your thoughts down below, hit that like and subscribe button, and let's dive into the pros. Now, Peacemaker Season 2 is coming into a more of a freedom realm of everything. James Gunn is now, again, the main creative head at the DC Studios. So, with that said, now he can do a lot more. And Peacemaker, in a way, Season 2 is a little bit even more vulgar than the first season. Just in the first episode alone, there's some things I see in there that I was like, whoa, okay, we're going there. But it also feels like it's gotten a little bit more of a padded element to it. It's a little bit bigger in its budget. You can tell from just the filmmaking style. And it's also, I would say, even more absurd and weird than the first season. So whether you like James Gunn for that or you don't, that might be kind of the tailer of it all. But Season 1 of Peacemaker was a giant surprise for me. I hated the character of Peacemaker in Suicide Squad, and I don't think you were supposed to love him, but I hated him. That was like the last character I think that should have gotten a spinoff, and I was not excited for Season 1, and then I went into Season 1, and I was genuinely surprised by how much I loved that season. And Season 2 is kind of the same case that I can't say for me, while I still think it's awesome, I need to see how it ends, because I think where it ended off in the last episode that I saw definitely excites me, like to no other end of seeing what happens in the next 3 episodes. But I also have a little bit of worries for that. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in my issues, but I do definitely think, as of right now, I would say I prefer Season 1 of Peacemaker to Season 2, but by a very, very small margin. And this is, again, coming from someone who loved the first season. So, as you can say, I would say I really like season 2 of Peacemaker right now. But I think one of the things that is the added bonus this season is I actually think John Cena, this is probably his best performance yet of his career. I mean, honestly, like I've never thought he was like the greatest actor, but I think if you use him correctly in a film, he can be very entertaining for those manners. And I think the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, James Gunn definitely knows how to use and showcase his abilities into the strongest light. He did kind of the same thing with Dave Bautista in Drax, and I think kind of you can see this here. But you can really see how much John Cena has evolved as an actor, and specifically into this character. As Peacemaker, Christopher Smith has a little bit more of heavier stuff to deal with this season, especially when the plot is about Christopher Smith, Peacemaker, venturing into an alternate reality through a pocket universe technology where he finds a life that is everything he's ever wanted. This discovery forces him to confront his past trauma and take control of his future. That right there, when you start seeing this pocket universe and what the difference is there are things that you can see that he's starting to confront and deal with that were kind of layered out very well in season 1, but I think season 2 only details that even stronger, especially with the revelations and stuff that happened with his father, and also the things that you find out that happened with his brother in the previous and his past. And that for me is something that I was very surprised by. And I think in reality, this season is about trauma for all these characters for the most part, and what their past means to them and what their past has really changed in them. And that is actually one of the strongest pieces in the telltale of season 2, past of what happened within season 1, but also in reality of all these characters and also what their past beyond season 1 was. And also I think in some way, shape, and form, it also is kind of a reflection on the DCU to the DCEU of how we reflect on that and how we shouldn't be held back by our past. Maybe James Gunn did that on purpose. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. I can't speak to that. But I think for me, it is very clever in the usage of this and the usage of telling this season and using that. And again, John Cena gives a great performance in here. He is excellent as this character. He's not just hilarious. He's not just badass. There is an emotional pocket to Christopher Smith's Peacemaker that I continually just wanted to get more invested in as this season progressed. So shout out to John Cena on that. Of course, I also want to give a shout out to Steve Agee, Daniela Brooks, Jennifer Holland, and Freddie Storma, who play, of course, the rest of the 11th Street Kids. They are so awesome. And again, I think their performances are great. I have one little con with them. I'll talk about that a little bit more in my issues towards the end of this review, but for the most part, they are phenomenal in this, and I really love seeing their dynamic once again. Of course, the humor, the heart, and some of the things that they're personally dealing with in here as well, especially Jennifer Holland's agent Amelia Harcourt. I think she's done an amazing job in really much what she's been personally dealing with, and I think it's been fascinating to see this character kind of evolve, which became off like more as like a one-note thing and now is actually like a fully fleshed out character. So in this season, there are new actors that have joined the fold, which is like Frank Grillo, who we've seen in Creature Commando, Superman now, but this is like the most that we've gotten of Rick Flag Sr. besides of Creature Commandos, and there is some depth to him, especially with knowing now his past and what had happened with Peacemaker in the Suicide Squad. He's able to know what's happened with his son, and there's certain elements to that very much intrigue me, and I love Frank Grillo in here. I think he's a badass, of course, and showcases a lot. Tim Meadows, huge standout in here. I think he delivers some of the best comedic lines in this entire season. Like, there is this whole joke about, I'll just say, bird blindness. That is a running gag through like 2 episodes that had me in stitches. It is absolutely hilarious any single time they bring it up. Of course, if you've seen the trailer, you know there might be some other characters in the DCU that get shown in here. They're pretty damn fun for that scene, and I really love that, and I'm excited to see more of Peacemaker interacting with a ton of other people in this world. Of course, getting the actors out of the way and talking about that, the other thing I want to talk about is how much better the action is in here. It's more hand-to-hand combat and more like brutal and bloody, up and close and personal, and that's like one thing that I was very, very intrigued, but also like on the off chance of that, this season is a little bit slower in terms of what it's trying to showcase. It is not like guns out, balls out, wall out action. There is like an action scene, I would say, in almost every episode, but it is actually a season that is very much detailing and discussing these characters as a whole. And I would say the Pocket Universe is kind of the MacGuffin of it all. Project Butterfly in the first season always felt like they had an objective in each episode to get something done and in terms of move the story along. In this one, it seems like they can meander a little bit more because now we've established the characters, we've established this world, and now we can touch on it a little bit more and play around in this world. And that for me is a little bit of a different pace that I actually more appreciate than anything else. I have, again, some issues to talk about within that and some worries, but it is, for me, an interesting dynamic and an interesting choice that James Gunn decided to do, and actually makes it feel like a more fleshed out show than anything else. It intrigues me the fact that there's only 8 episodes this season, because I feel like already I would say maybe this season should have been 10. Aside that, once I've seen the entire show. You get awesome action, you have awesome performances. The intro to this, I think I still prefer season 1, but the more and more I continue to watch season 2's intro every single time, it is unskippable. And you watch it and you laugh and you enjoy it. I almost forgot, Michael Rooker is also in here, and he's like Eagly's main villain. Every sequence with him, hilarious beyond belief. In some ways, it actually feels like very Looney Tune-ish, but I'm okay with that. It's really hard to talk without getting the spoilers. I guess the last thing I'll mention for my pros, since this is like the closest thing I can say, is that the canon stuff is one thing that I was very intrigued to see how they were going to handle, and I actually think it handles really well. As I mentioned, definitely watch the recaps. I think the first recap is probably the best one to show you what is canon, because they specifically showcase a scene, and I love how that scene was changed up in the recap. Alongside that, like, I like how they never linger on the past. It's more of in reference and in words. If you don't know and you haven't seen those films, it's okay. It's like just one little thing that they're mentioning. It's elements like that that intrigue me, that show what is canon and what isn't. And I think going forward, that should just be the discussion there and no worries on the past. It's kind of obvious how they're playing this out. And I think for the most part, it'll come more obvious as we see more into this world, as we forget the previous DCEU. I really liked it. And I also like what they've added to the world, and I'm excited to continue to see more of that in this. But let's jump into some of my worries that I have. Now, obviously, I've not finished the season, but I think the one issue I can say straight off the bat is I do think the season takes a little bit too long to actually get into the MacGuffin and everything kind of going on. They introduce it, but it feels like it's taken a little bit too long to get to what the premise is of this season. And I will say, with 3 episodes left, that worries me a bit for how they're going to maybe conclude the season. If it's a cliffhanger, sure, that's fine, but I want to feel at least satisfied somewhat in terms of its character arcs for this. Second, that being my biggest worry of this, and really much my biggest con for watching this so far. But my biggest thing, and actually the one thing I'm really worried about, and again, this could be improved by the last 3 episodes, is the 11th Street kids, Vigilante, doesn't get a lot to do. And that's actually one of the saddest parts, is because I thought he was such a brand spanking awesome character in the first season, and I just don't think they've used him enough in this season. And I think the same thing goes for Steve Agee, who's been awesome in this, but I would like a little bit more of him. Danielle Brooks as well, awesome character development, but not enough of her character. And that's my thing, is that I just want more of the 11th Street kids, or at least more of them together. They're very separated by the start of the season, which makes sense for where season 1 ended. But I feel like I needed a little bit more of that personally. And the show is called Peacemaker, but the supporting characters is truly also what made season 1 so special. And that is one thing that I'm hoping that the back half of the season can definitely improve on. Can't deny it. Peacemaker season 2 is just awesome once again. It's absurd, kick-ass, bloody, and of course hilarious, while fully cementing itself in the DCU with what is canon from the DCEU. It blends nicely all together, and it's easily seen as best performance. I've only seen the first 5, but I definitely need the rest of it right away. I think this is a very great season 2, and I think it could turn out to be even better than season 1, or even just on par with season 1 once I've seen the rest of the season. But so far, I would give Peacemaker season 2 a 4 out of 5. Just so you know, season 1 of Peacemaker would be a 4.5 out of 5. So for me, this is a pretty high recommendation. I very much enjoyed season 2 of Peacemaker. I just have some things I'm a little bit worried on, and things that I really want to talk about, but I can't. That's why this review is so big. So thank you so much for watching this. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And of course, until next time, stay classy.